Hey, this is Witch's Hex, and before we get started, I just want to note that if you're wondering how this Virtual Boy capture works, check out my Beat the Game category run. I'll link it in the description. It describes how it works before the run starts, so check that one out. Anyway, please enjoy this run. This is Jack Bros, a little puzzle platformer for the Nintendo Virtual Boy that is the first Shin Megami Tensei game to come to the West. See, you normally play as one of 4 Jacks, but by entering a cheat code that is oddly finicky, you need to hold down a combination of buttons when entering the last character, you can play as the secret character, Pixie. Now, Pixie is great because she has some mechanical differences to the rest that I'll get into in a minute. But first, a brief explanation of what this game is. So, this game is comprised of 6 levels, which each have a number of floors. The floors have an exit, and the exit is normally locked. You have to pick up all the keys to get to the exit. Your health counts down because it's timed, and enemies can drop health or items. You might notice that orb item I just had. That item allows you to basically take hits without taking damage. It gives you like a buffer for 3 hits. It's super good. Unfortunately, the pattern the goblins moved in on the previous floor meant that we didn't get to keep any orbs, which means that we cannot 2-cycle this boss, because normally you would be able to. Or with 1 or more orbs you could do it, but with no orbs we have to 2-cycle the boss, so it's a little unfortunate, but it's not too big of a deal. Only loses a few seconds. Now, the real characters, the real playable characters, the ones that you don't have to put in a code to get, 2 of them have projectiles like Pixie, but Pixie's projectile works differently. So Pixie's projectile works more like a lot of retro games do. She can only have 1 bullet on the screen, but she fires at an infinite rate of fire so long as there's no bullet on the screen, meaning that the closer you are to enemies, the more damage it does. That's pretty standard for how a lot of these games work, but it's a little odd for this one. So what you saw there is I picked up an invincibility potion. Now, this next floor is dependent on them, but those are really good. What they do is they basically give you a huge speed boost and make you invincible. And this way we can just touch enemies to, to cancel out any damage. So we don't have to attack or anything, and it's 1 hit for everything. Most enemies die in 1 hit, some of them take more. Anyway, we're up to our second boss here. We have 2 orbs, which is pretty good. It means we can stand close to the boss without taking damage. So, something to note with Pixie's combat that's especially relevant against bosses, we want to be standing near bosses as close as possible where we can fire off multiple shots. Such that we just avoid the iframes. That way we get the maximum number of shots, because otherwise you get a bullet going through, which you saw happen a few times there. So we're going to move into our 3rd level now. And this is where, we start to get this is where levels start to get a little bit longer. So these things on the side, for some reason, those spike traps that move in on you are called Paradise. Pixie is really fast, so almost every instance we see those, we are going to just, we're never even going to have to worry about baiting them out if we want to avoid damage. So this floor is the first floor in the game that has a choice of which exit you want to go. This one has 2 exits, and they both lead downwards. They both go the right way, but this one's a little faster, so we take this one. There was another one at the north. It actually determines your path for the next 3 floors instead of just 2. You get this one. We actually get a new enemy type on this floor. These little enemies work like the Dark Nuts in The Legend of Zelda. Basically, you can't hurt them from the front. With Pixie, it's better to just kind of damage boost through them, because otherwise you're stuck waiting for you to get a chance to get on their side. There's a bunch of health here, so we should be okay. These enemies are called poltergeists. They always run away from you. They run in set patterns, so they're easy to trap in specific spots. But they always drop 50 health, so, we can rely on getting those, too. If I was on higher health, I would have avoided them to save a slight amount of time, but we weren't, so I got him. So this enemy is Vampire, and this boss can be a bit of a pain. This boss teleports randomly, fortunately always in the middle of the room, so we know where they're going to spawn. Gets these bats out. Ideally, I would kind of stay further away from the bats to avoid taking damage, but that would actually be slower. So we can get some hits in. You may notice those stars on the bottom left of the screen. Those are called Jack Stars, and I can get 2 possible effects out of them. Considering that I'm on low health, you're actually going to see the first effect here. You can deal a massive amount of damage using 2 bosses using them. Now, with Pixie, it is substantially faster than her normal damage methods. She can deal damage she deals damage faster with that than bullets. For some of the other characters, that's not necessarily the case. But there's a second use to those, which I'll get into in a little while, and that's why we want to avoid using them on bosses, is because they're so useful in their other capacity too. However, we still want to use them on bosses sometimes. So this room is notable. It has the most exits of any room. So you can kind of wind up in a number of places on the following floor. But, you know, this one down here is the fastest, the bottom middle. And the reason behind that is it puts you right there and gives you an invincibility potion. Now, something you may notice is that no matter what happens, I will always attack on a floor. And there's actually a very good reason for that. We're going to skip the puzzle there because it's much faster. There's a very good reason for that. If you complete a floor without attacking it all, the game rewards you with 20 health. It also shows you a very long cutscene in order to reward you. And by very long, I mean a few seconds, but hey. So we're going to deliberately attack on every floor unless we are super desperate for health. So yeah, invincibility potion makes you go fast. So this floor, they want you to push the rocks to like trap in these laser generators. Joke's on them though, because that would be real slow, so we're just going to walk through. We're going to take a hit on that last one. And because that did bring us down to a very small amount of health, we actually did get the bonus health that I was just talking about. So here we have this floor, and we're actually going to go invincible here so we can kind of skip the puzzle. We could have skipped the puzzle without doing that, but it would have been slower. Anyway, this boss is probably the hardest boss in the game besides the last one. This boss can kind of do that. It's a very little damage thing. Fortunately got hit by this attack, which is something you really want to avoid. I'm going to have to spam Jack Stars here. If you're paying attention, you should never have, like... any run in this game is completable. It's just a matter of knowing how to balance your resources. So unfortunately, although that was very fast, it had the trade-off of I have 0 Jack Stars now, which means that I'm going to lose time, especially in the last level, but also in the second last level. I'm going to be losing time picking up Jack Stars. It should roughly even out, but it's a little bit of a riskier play. You know, I'm more likely to lose time now. So yeah, those enemies take a few hits and they crawl around the screen the way they do. They're pretty not worth killing. Anyway, this floor has you kind of go up and get a thing and go down. There's 2 ways around there, but one way always gives you 20 and 30 health respectively, and the other gives you 5, so might as well get the 5. So if you're desperate on Jack Stars, there's a spare one right there. We are desperate on Jack Stars, so we're going to go grab that. If you're doing good on Jack Stars, it's not worth it, but it only costs about 4 seconds to go get that, so that's good. So this room has a little trick to it. If you just go straight around like this, you'll get hit by 2 of them, but you'll make the cycle. It's the fastest way through the room. Unfortunately, we're on kind of low health and low Jack Stars, so this room has a very long puzzle that we're just going to skip because it only costs us 60 damage. It also gives us a 30 health that we can use to negate some of that. So yeah, that took a bunch of damage, but you see those rocks, you basically have to push them all the way down into those little like square areas and then push them all the way back up on both ends to avoid damage. It's one of the slowest puzzles in the game. It might be the slowest puzzle in the game, actually. So, don't want to do that. Anyway, these things, you know, you might normally have to bait them out, but Pixie has an incredibly fast movement speed. We're going to take the secret bonus for health because we are very low on health here. So here's a good place to get health. We're going to purposely get hit by that slime, and that'll do 5 damage instead of the 20 that those paradises would do. We also got some orbs there, so that's pretty nice. So here's the other use we can get out of a Jackstar I'm going to show right here. So when used in a normal level, it has a different effect for each character. Pixie's is the best by a wide margin. It gives you an invincibility potion. Now, you might be noticing the floor shaking. That's the you know, thing caused by the rudest enemy in the game, the Cyclops. That one was caused by hitting too many enemies too fast. That's unavoidable. But yeah, the Cyclops, A, has the most health of any enemy in the game, and B, will stun you every few seconds regardless of where you are. So if there's a floor with a Cyclops on it, we're probably using a Jackstar to, you know, gain some invincibility and be able to take care of them if they line up in our paths. Because the more of them there are, the more they do. So this actually has you go up a floor and then back down because the keys are actually disconnected from the rest of the floor. So you have to get these keys. There's some wizards here. Wizards aren't really all that threatening. Go back up, then we got to go through this room. This room's actually kind of clever because this room is a puzzle, but it's actually a different puzzle depending on which way you approach it, and it forces you to approach it 2 different ways. So I find that incredibly clever. Anyway, this room gives you a bit of health from what you need. I do have to damage boost here once, but I managed to luck into an invincibility potion, so no damage boost. So here we have ghosts. If you're very patient, you can trick the ghosts at corners. It does take time though, so with Pixie, it's often faster to lead them into corners. I only actually need one, so I'm just going to take that one. They give you 50 health, but all that's left is kind of a couple more floors than the boss. And then there's one that's always going to kind of run into that corner there, so we do it. Ghost movement is always the same. It's not random. They always move off in the same direction, so long as we're paying attention, we can always get the ghosts. Anyway, this room is entitled Look at the Minimap. You can see where keys are in the minimap, and there's a bunch of goblins that spawn here. Goblins have the most random movement pattern of any enemy, which makes them our worst enemies. So you gotta watch the minimap to see which way they go there. Did I mention this room has Cyclopses in it? Because, yeah, we're using this. So one of them is actually holding a key, which means that we would have to kill one, and that would take a very long time without using a Jackstar. This is actually a low Jackstar game that we've gotten here, which is going to prevent us from doing a few things, but fortunately, this is a game of resource management, so we're always prepared for anything the game throws at us. There is no such thing as a uncompletable run or anything. Because of the low Jackstars, I wanted to take a bit more health. We actually wound up having to take a number of those secret health bonuses this run. And the game gives you options. If you're familiar with the game, like, there is no such thing as an unbeatable seed. You can do anything. Anyway, this boss has 2 attacks. It pushes you down. It shoots out a pillar of fire. You just kind of want to stick close enough to it. Its pattern is actually one of the easier patterns in the game. The only thing is that it has an absurdly high health bar, especially with how little damage we're doing. So this boss is, you know, kind of an endurance battle. There's also this pit of spikes that goes up across the floor. You can dodge it, but it's not worth it. It doesn't come by often enough, and you kind of have to go massively out of your way to do so. So it's kind of not worth doing. So now we're going to enter into the last level, Crystal Palace. And if you've ever played this game casually, you will be familiar with this level as the meanest level. A lot of casual players will get up to this level and give up. This level is so much harder than the rest of the game. And this is not an easy game. The game was not easy before this. Yeah, we're gonna take a bunch of health here because with how few Jack Stars we have, we need to be careful. That slime dropped orbs. That is nice, but we should have enough time before the orbs despawn to come up and down, and it's faster than going out of our way. We're going to be pushing it, like it's going to be despawning by the time we get there, but we will be able to make it, and that would be faster than kind of running into them on the way there. Anyway, this is a block pushing puzzle, but there's a thing that can happen here. Notice that wizard? If we're unlucky, that wizard can spawn behind one of the blocks. It only costs a few seconds, but, you know, there is nothing more frustrating than that wizard just standing there, like, wasting 2 of your precious seconds going like, hey, I don't want to move. Yeah, I'm comfy. You don't want to finish this block puzzle. Why don't you just chill here with me for 256 seconds? Anyway, it's looking like no wizard block, so we're good here. There's actually a hard difficulty for this game, and they put like 50 wizards there, so you just end up waiting for wizards. Anyway, it's very slow to avoid that damage boost. It actually, if we didn't have orbs, it would have taken 20 health, and they gave us a 20 health for doing the damage boost, so don't really lose anything by doing it. These little blocked out areas, I didn't mention them before, they're called dark zones. If you have all the floors memorized like I do, there's not really too much to them. You can't see them underneath. You can't see underneath them. Normal difficulty doesn't put like spike traps or anything under them, so you don't have to worry. So here's a little puzzle. You're supposed to do this very slow thing where you push blocks to block both the top and bottom lasers. Fortunately, we had orbs, but either way, we're damage boosting there. 1, because that puzzle is very slow, but 2, the game will actually instantly give us a chance to do another one. It's faster to teleport back up here than it is to walk all the way back around, so we teleport up. Now, here's this room, and so these laser generator items, they have an absurdly high drop rate for good items. Like, I'm pretty sure laser generators always drop something. So see, we got orbs, we got an invincibility potion to help us clear that level faster. We got a Jack Star, so all sorts of good things, plus a lot of health. Yeah, there's Cyclopses here, so we used a Jack Star even though it's not a super long level. Because guess what? One's holding a key again. Yeah, that floor has got a free Jack Star. There's a few there's a few places in this level that give you Jack Stars, which is good because especially for the final boss, we want to have a lot of Jack Stars. Not only is the final boss difficult, but for Pixie, the final boss is slower to kill with bullets than Jack Stars, as is every boss, but the final boss has a lot of health. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pick up this invincibility potion first and then go back and clear everything. It's not necessarily faster, but it does let you pick up all... It is faster if you want to pick up all the resources on that floor, including the Jack Star. So it is faster for that floor. Anyway, if I had more Jack Stars, this would be a good screen for using Jack Stars. It's just... It doesn't have anything too challenging, but it's pretty long. Unfortunately, with what we have this run, we just simply... We simply don't have the Jack Stars for it, so... We're just not going to do it. It's not too big of a deal. Would save a few seconds. It's better to hold them for later when we have better uses for them. Like this floor. This floor will give us a Jack Star, and guess what enemy type is on here? We're just going to quickly run into them and take them out before they can smash the floor more than once. Unfortunately, you can't really dodge the first one. And that floor does give you another Jack Star to handle it, so no big. So this floor is called the... I call this floor the Ghost Hunt. And what this floor is basically there's a bunch of poltergeists. And you can chase them around into corners. And there's also a free Jack Star. And they give health. There's nothing on this floor. You can actually leave it immediately. I did mess up a corner trick. So I am going to take maybe... I am going to maybe lose 10 seconds here, kind of guiding them back into a good spot. Yeah, I kind of had to go for it. That's okay, though. We're going to supplement that in a couple levels. There's another way to gain some extra health. Plus, we got some orbs there, which is really nice. This is one of the longest floors in the game, so it's a good place to use a Jack Star. It's even longer than the other one, so we use one there. This is a very simple block pushing puzzle. It's very unlikely that you'll get wizard block there, but it can happen. It's more it's less likely in terms of their stuff. Anyway, long floor, we're gonna do this. There's also lots of health pickups for us here. Unfortunately, we kind of missed one of the enemies holding a key, so we had to go back down for it, but we are invincible, so that's gonna be a lot of stuff. We're gonna pick up all that extra health because we didn't really have a great ghost hunt floor. It's fine though. If you know where to look, the game will always give you backups. This floor is the last non-boss floor in the game, and if you've ever played Pokemon Red and Blue, it might seem familiar to you. It might remind you of Sabrina's gym. That's because there's all these teleporters, and you need to know which way to go. The game does give you a little hint here. The optimal pattern to get through here is to always go through the teleporter that's far away from the key. So that's down, left, up, right is the fastest way through this room. There's more ways to do it. You don't have to go down, left, up, right, but that is the one that brings you to the least extra areas. Anyway, we have 4 Jack Stars and 400 health and 2 orbs, which means that we need to be careful on this boss, which means we're going to be taking some slower strats here. But we won't lose to the boss or anything. So this boss has 2 forms. The second one is basically the same as the first, but with more health and an additional attack. There's also these paradises that go up and down the stage. You don't want to stand in the same place for too long, because if you're standing in the same place, the paradises won't move. And they'll just keep closing in on you, which is why I keep dodging them like that. I really don't have the normally I would want to spam Jack Stars here, whatever I've left. Unfortunately, I only have 4, so I kind of have to take a slower strategy where I kind of stand a little bit away. If I were to get up close, I would be taking more hits. I am still taking some hits in order to negate that. The other attack this boss has is these flies. They're kind of slow. When I do end up using my Jack Stars, I'm saving them for a bit later in the fight. Not because it matters, but I will be using them when those things start coming out. That's because, you know, they are absorbing my hits and wasting my time. That being said, once you know the boss pattern, it's not too bad. Anyway, I got close enough without needing them that I just spammed them all. See, that's why I saved them. I saved them in case I get desperate for time stuff, but we were okay. Yeah, unfortunately, because of the low Jack Stars, we did lose a bunch of time in Crystal Palace, but it mostly evened out. This was a pretty good run, overall. Well, I'm going to leave you all to the credits. I'm going to cut my mic. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you're looking for how this capture setup worked, because this is not an emulator, this is a real Virtual Boy, check out in the description. I linked to my Beat the Game category with Jack's run. So, check that out if you're curious. And, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice night, if it's night.